And I don't mean just all television. It's going to be a little weird with cable stations and not, but it's going to be particularly so for local TV stations. And here's why. CBS, NBC, ABC charge these local stations a lot of money to air the programming that they air. And then those stations also charge the cable companies, right? Well, nobody's willing to pay this multiple rungs of fees anymore when you can go watch it all online. You can go watch it on your iPad, right? So when HBO started breaking free so you could have HBO without having HBO on TV last year, that started this precedent and this kind of role where everything is available off the cable box. I haven't cut the cord yet, and there's only one reason, is because the AT&T's priced it very cleverly so that I really don't save any money by getting rid of cable because I have my gigapower internet through them. But it's becoming a real thing. I don't watch anything on there. I watch it all on the Apple TV. And that's why, at ESPN, I'm going to highlight here before I get into the local stuff. So on December 18th, Star Wars launched, right? Star Wars is owned by Disney. Disney's stock went into a spiral after the biggest movie of all time opened. And there's one reason it did, and it's called ESPN. Because as it's becoming clear that cable's going to become unbundled, and people are going to, a lot of times go just with their own channels that they're buying on individual stations, ESPN is extremely expensive to produce and is subsidized by all the people who don't watch it, right? So like, I have cable. Only thing I watch on ESPN is college basketball. I'm still paying every month a big chunk of what I'm paying for cable goes to ESPN. Everybody in the industry knows that's going away. So that's a bad enough problem that Disney's stock has been in a free fall, even though they have the biggest movie of all time out right now. Local channels, it's going to be, there's a kind of a false security this year. So when Tony mentioned Pegasus News, the first company I sold Pegasus News to was a TV group out of Seattle. And I was baffled when I first went to my first financial meeting there, because typically if you're in a business and you're looking at your financial results, you look at last year, and you look at this year, and you see how you're doing. Local TV stations all look at alternate years, even and odd years, even against even, odd against odd. Does anybody know why? Elections. TV stations that struggle in the odd years make a fortune in the even years, particularly if you're in a swing state. It even has impact here in Texas, but if you're in a swing state, a quick plug, I have a podcast called the Digital CMO Podcast. If you go back and listen, a couple weeks ago I had Vinny Minchillo, who is a political consultant. He's based here. He's run advertising for 3 or 4 different presidential races and slews of congressional races. And he said to me, there's this, I forget the town he mentioned in Iowa, he's like, I would love to see their books. Because they're also supposed to charge their lowest rate, but somehow their lowest rate elevates during election season. So here's what I mean. This year we've got the Olympics and elections. So TV stations, particularly NBC affiliates, are going to do really well this year. Everybody's going to do well because this is a very hotly contested election. You know, whatever your politics are, you know, the last election was not so heavily contested because we had a re-election campaign. This is going to be very heavily contested. Lots of money being spent. Even though the campaigns are getting more digital and starting to get smart about programmatic, they're really slow to the game, so they're going to spend most of their money on TV. So TV is going to have a good year this year while the underlying economics are falling apart. So I would say 2017 is kind of the year of reckoning for local TV. The numbers here that I want to point out is if you look at, pay TV viewers are steadily going down. The non-viewer number is steadily going up. And what was most interesting to me is that the cord cutters are rising sort of at a slow rate like you would expect. The cord nevers, which I think is an interesting category, means people who've never had cable. Look at how those numbers are swelling. What's driving that is the young folks are getting out of school and they're moving into their first apartment and they're not getting cable at all. They're just never getting it. So they're not just that they're losing customers, there's no new customers. This is really, really going to fundamentally change. And you know, where it's sad to me is, where it really is going to hurt is local news. Because those TV stations aren't going to be able to afford the coverage as those numbers crunch.
Yeah, but you said core never over the air receiver.
Right.
Because I'm a core never, but I've always been an over the air.
Yeah, but
And my daughter both do over the air, but they don't have cable.
in general, though, the OTA, as a demographic, the younger generation is not going OTA either. As long as they can get what they need on a digital device, and there's just very little that they can.
Yeah, but a lot of these kids actually ride on their parents' what do you call this? Cable. Because a lot of accounts, like for example,